Fatima.
And I'm Angie, and welcome to Career Talk.
This program will introduce you to a variety of careers firsthand from professionals working in those fields.
So why is this so important, Fatima?
One of the best ways to learn about which career is right for you is to ask individuals working those occupations through informational interviewing, like we're doing today with Peter Skillman. He is a technical webmaster at the Yuba Community College District.
Thank you for being here today, Peter.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. Well, our first question for you today is, what led you to decide to follow this career path?
Well, it was an interesting series of events. I basically started out after college. The first job I could get was as a salesperson. And one day I was walking down the hallway and I saw this person working on a computer on what turned out to be a spreadsheet program. And I had never seen anything like it. This is, of course, the early days of computers. And I was immediately fascinated by it. And I think, interesting enough, at that time I was really thinking, well, I don't know if I really wanted to be a salesperson. So I kind of put that thought out there. You know, I'm looking for something different. And after putting it out there, I saw this, and I thought that was something I really wanted to learn about. And on my own, started working on a computer, doing things on a volunteer basis. And the stuff that I learned, I was able to apply in my job. So amazingly, now that I look back on it, within a year, I transitioned out of being a salesperson into working full-time with computers.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And how did you get started in this field?
Well, after I was working in computers for a while, I started migrating, being a person in an organization that knew about computers, but relatively speaking. I knew a little bit more than how to turn them on. I knew how to do some of the software aspects of it. And when the internet came out big time in the 90s, I was really enthusiastic about it. And the reason why is because we were no longer locked with just our computers, that our computers were networked with, in fact, the whole world. And that was, to me, really thrilling. So I wanted to learn about the internet. And I was fortunate because one of the people that I had worked with in a previous job had the same interest in it and needed someone to work with him on building a website. So I said, I'm game. Let's go for it.
Perfect. Well, that's great. Can you describe a typical workday?
Well, I work with a computer and I have an office, and I'm primarily by myself working with the computer, but I never feel alone. And that's because I am constantly interacting with others, either coworkers or people here in the community college district that I consider kind of my clients or customers, emailing them. And so while I'm working alone, there's a constant stream of emails that I respond to, requests for my assistance. And but again, it's primarily working in front of the computer. I do have meetings with people, and it's important therefore that I'm able to know how to speak and how to listen, what's appropriate in a meeting circumstance.
Okay. Great.
And what do you like best about your job?
Well, for me, I think the thing is I feel like I'm helping people. And one of the things I identified early on in my career that's been real helpful, and as I've actually gone to different jobs, is that I have an interest in helping people. And so I like to build tools, in this case websites, that enables people to find things easier. One of the opportunities I had here was when I was first hired, I heard a complaint, well, people had trouble finding what they wanted on the website. So leveraging experiences I had in the previous jobs, I was able to improve our search capability on our websites. So it gives me a good feeling to know when people are searching for something, maybe something on financial aid or indeed career guidance, they're able to type it in the search field and come up with a real relevant page return and find what they're looking for.
That's interesting you say that, because as career counselors, a lot of times we get students that come into our office and we ask them, you know, what they're interested in, what they want to do, and a lot of times they just say, we want to help people. And you know, a lot of times you don't think to go into web and web development. It's okay, the helping professions. You want to be a counselor, a nurse, or a therapist, or something like that. And it's interesting that's what drew you to the career. So,
yeah, it is, and it's something that I just discovered as I was doing it. That's something I really like to do. That's something that really motivates me.
Perfect. Well, it sounds like you love a lot of different things about your job. Could you tell our audience some of maybe the challenges that you have in your line of work?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that I have is not having a fix, coming up with new questions or challenges where I don't immediately have the answer. The field is very dynamic and new technologies are coming down the pike, new ways of doing things. And I have to be able to not be afraid of not knowing how to solve a particular problem and to have faith that I've developed the skills to research it, to ask questions. I think one of the key things, knowing how to ask a question on Google and getting a response. And I've learned to rely on that quite a bit. And so facing the unknown, having a situation where someone says, can you do this? And saying, yes, and then walking out of the meeting thinking, oh God, how am I going to do that?
Right.
How am I going to, I committed to doing that, how in the world am I going to do that? And just having the faith that over a period of time of facing that same experience of not knowing, having the, overcoming the fear of not knowing how to do something, knowing that there's a solution out there. There's a, Googling, ask people. The internet is a great resource. And I've learned over time that to develop the faith that the answer is going to come and that I will be able to solve a particular problem and therefore meet the objective of the person that I'm working for.
Great, thank you.
Perfect. What would you recommend for people who are interested in getting into your line of work?
Well, the key thing is to build a website for somebody. You can, I myself personally respond to something that's tangible. Rather than just reading a book or taking a tutorial online, and I have to say there's lots of tutorials on HTML and cascading style sheets and how to build a website. They're very valuable. But the first thing I would do is to find someone that you know, a family or a friend, and say, would you like a website? And there are a lot of people out there that have interest or hobbies or even side jobs or even their primary source of income that could use a website. And offer to build a website for them, say, and just download whatever you need. If you have access to your own computer or even a computer at school, you're oftentimes able to download the tools that you need to build a website and use that as a starting point.
Perfect. And
so what kind of skills must someone absolutely have to succeed in this field?
Well, I think, as I mentioned, problem solving. So how does that relate to school or your educational process? Well, every course you have gives you a set of problems, and it doesn't necessarily have to be math. It could be anything where you're asked a question and you have to come up to a response. You're mentally, in my day-to-day work, you're asking questions. Well, how to do this? Or what's the best way of doing that? Coming up with an answer, so problem solving. The next thing is important and you don't necessarily need a high degree of math skills to do this. I made it to algebra. I remember early on in my career I mentored with someone who had advanced degrees from Berkeley, and I was very intimidated by her expertise, and she sensed that. She saw my nervousness, and she says, and she knew it was related to math, and she said, if you can add, and you can do this job. You can be a programmer. And the key thing is the symbolic logic that you get from algebra, the x plus y equals z. A lot of the HTML and programming aspects ask you to understand symbolic logic. And then secondly, communication skills. Not primarily being able to write clearly, write a clear email that's concise, but also the aspect of communication where you listen. A lot of times I'm in a situation where people want something and I have to guide them to draw them out. I have to ask questions and I have to practice active listening and hear what it is that they say, so when I go back to my computer, they get what they want.
So those English classes probably come in handy here on
pay
campus.
Attention to those English classes, be able to write clearly, and also do your best in math, but it's definitely not rocket science. Your basic math that you get at community college definitely would suffice.
Great. So practicing with relatives that you know, trusting in your instinct to learn new things, and enjoying what you do. I think
Yes,
those are some of the top
definitely.
skills.
And there's an excellent example of active listening.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Peter. We really enjoyed having you on the show today.
Thank you for inviting
Thank
me.
you
I
so
really was a
much.
pleasure.
Pleasure. This program was brought to you by the Yuba College Career Center, who believes to be happy for life, love your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.